Iran downed US aircraft, the 48-hour ultimatum. Just over 3 weeks ago, everything changed in the Middle East, and right now, nobody really knows how this ends. In the next 48 hours, millions of lives hang in the balance. We're talking about power plants being destroyed, shipping routes shutting down completely, and a confrontation between superpowers that could reshape the entire global economy. But here's the thing that nobody's talking about right now. It all comes back to one shocking claim that Iran just made, and what the world does with it could determine whether we're heading towards peace or total catastrophe. So if you want to understand what's really happening in the Gulf, what Trump actually threatened to do, and what Iran's saying they already did, you need to stick around for the next few minutes because this story is absolutely unreal. And before we dive in, if you're following this chaos in real time like we are, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm posting updates constantly, and you don't want to miss what happens next. This isn't some ancient history we're talking about, this is happening right now. March 2026, and the stakes have never been higher. So what exactly did Iran claim to do, and more importantly, is there any evidence of it actually happening? That's the question we're diving into today. Let's rewind to Saturday, March 21st. The world wakes up to something absolutely horrifying. President Trump, sitting in Florida at his Mar-a-Lago resort, posts this devastating ultimatum on social media. He's not calling anyone. He's not consulting with Congress. He's literally typing out threats on X 48 hours. He tells Iran, that's it. Open the Strait of Hormuz completely, and I mean completely. No restrictions, or the United States is going to obliterate Iran's power plants. He writes it in all caps so there's no confusion. Various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. And you have to understand what this means. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just some random waterway. A third of the world's oil passes through there. When you're threatened to destroy power plants in Iran during wartime, you're not just talking about some military installation, you're talking about destroying the infrastructure that keeps hospitals running, that keeps cities powered, that keeps millions of people alive. But that's not even the craziest part. Just hours before Trump's ultimatum, Iran's military came forward with a claim so shocking that it made headlines everywhere. Iran said it had shot down an American aircraft. Not a drone, not some small reconnaissance plane, they said it was a hunter-killer jet. The Iranian military was claiming they'd done something that seemed almost impossible given what everyone had been saying about their air defenses. And this is where the story gets really twisted. Because what had the US military been saying for weeks leading up to this moment? Just days before Iran made their claim, Trump himself was standing in the Oval Office bragging to reporters about how completely destroyed Iran's military had become. Their air force is gone, he said. Their anti-aircraft equipment is gone. We're flying wherever we want. We have nobody even shooting at us. This wasn't some military general making a careful assessment. This was the President of the United States making an incredibly bold statement about total air superiority. And you have to wonder, when he said that, what did he really know? Because here's the background that makes this even more crucial to understand. 3 weeks before this moment, on February 28th, the US and Israel launched what they're calling Operation Midnight Hammer, massive, coordinated campaign against Iran. In the first phase alone, they destroyed hundreds of Iranian air defense systems. The Israeli Defense Force reported knocking out over 300 ballistic missile launchers. The US Central Command Admiral came out and said they had achieved air dominance over Iran, that military term that means you can basically do anything you want in the sky without fear. They said Iranian ballistic missile attacks had decreased by 90%. Drone attacks were down 83%. The assessment from the Pentagon was clear. Iran's military was severely degraded and getting worse every single day. So when Iran comes out and says they shot down an American aircraft, what we're really asking is that even possible? Did their military somehow recover capabilities that were supposedly destroyed? Or is this something else entirely? The answer might shock you, and it could change everything about how we understand what's happening in the Gulf right now. This is the crucial question nobody wants to directly answer. Let's talk about what actually happened on the ground that day, because the chaos was everywhere. While Trump was in Florida typing out his threats, something extraordinary was unfolding across the entire Middle East. In Saudi Arabia, the defense ministry is intercepting dozens of Iranian drones and missiles. They're taking down 20 drones in one day, 3 ballistic missiles, and they're announcing it all on social media like some kind of play-by-play in the UAE. The same thing is happening. Air raid sirens are going off in Dubai, in Bahrain, across the entire region. In Qatar, one of the world's largest liquefied natural gas facilities gets hit extensive damage. They're saying it'll take years to repair. And remember, Qatar produces a third of the world's helium, so these aren't symbolic hits. These are strikes on critical global infrastructure. But the scariest moment comes in southern Israel. Iran launches missiles directly at two towns, Dimona and Arad. Israeli air defenses fail to intercept them. More than 100 people are wounded. Homes are torn open. Craters are carved into the ground. And here's what makes people absolutely terrified. Dimona is where Israel's main nuclear research center is located. Iran isn't just hitting military targets anymore. They're hitting close to nuclear facilities. Israel has around 90 nuclear warheads, and we're talking about missiles landing near where that nuclear arsenal is based. When Iran's parliament speaker comments on the hits, he says something chilling. If the Israeli regime is unable to intercept missiles in the heavily protected Dimona area, it is operationally a sign of entering a new phase of the battle. A new phase. That phrase keeps echoing. 3 weeks into this war, something is shifting. The narrative that Iran is completely defeated, that they have no capability, that they're just taking hits without fighting, that narrative is starting to crack. And maybe that's why Iran felt bold enough to make that claim about shooting down an American aircraft in the first place. Now here's where it gets really confusing, and honestly it's making a lot of people angry. When you start digging into what actually happened with that aircraft claim, the story gets murky fast. Iran says they shot down a hunter-killer jet. The US doesn't immediately come out with a counterstatement. There's no press conference from the Pentagon. There's no video released showing what happened. What we do know is this: multiple countries in the region got attacked that same day. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain. Air defenses were firing everywhere. Missiles and drones were in the sky across the entire Gulf. In that chaos, you have US aircraft flying combat missions, Iranian aircraft and drones being launched, and it's literally a shooting gallery up there. The claim about the aircraft sits there without clear confirmation or denial for hours, and you have to ask yourself why. In previous incidents like when the US shot down an Iranian drone back in February, the Pentagon came out immediately with details. They explained what happened, where it happened, what type of drone it was. But this time, when everyone was focused on Trump's ultimatum and the massive missile strikes hitting multiple countries simultaneously, the aircraft story kind of got lost in the noise. That's when something really weird happens. The focus shifts completely to Trump's ultimatum about the power plants in the Strait of Hormuz. Suddenly, that becomes the headline everywhere. Not Iran claims to shoot down US aircraft. No, the headlines become about Trump threatening to obliterate Iran's power infrastructure in 48 hours. And you have to wonder if that was intentional, if somebody wanted the world's attention somewhere else, away from questions about what actually happened in Iranian airspace that day. Let's talk about why Trump made that ultimatum in the first place, because it reveals something crucial about the situation. Oil prices were skyrocketing. The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz was starting to bite. Shipping companies were rerouting around Africa, adding weeks and massive costs to supply chains. Every day the strait remained restricted. It was draining trillions from the global economy. So Trump makes this public threat, and he puts a clock on it. 48 hours. But here's the psychological warfare element. He's trying to shock Iran into submission. He's trying to make them believe that the US has the capability and the will to destroy their entire power grid. And remember, this is being posted from Florida while he's claiming the war is very complete. Pretty much is the weirdest thing he's saying it's done while also threatening new massive strikes. What does that actually mean? Is the war over or isn't it? But here's what we know about fear and ultimatums: they can backfire spectacularly, because Iran's response to the threat is to basically say they'll close the Strait of Hormuz completely if the US follows through. That's not submission. That's escalation. That's turning Trump's threat into a reason to start a new round of conflict rather than end one. And suddenly the 48-hour clock becomes the most important thing in the world. What's making military analysts lose their minds right now is something called asymmetric warfare, and it's destroying the conventional wisdom about American military superiority. The US has these Patriot missiles, incredible air defense systems. They cost millions of dollars each. But Iran has these drones called Shahed 139s. They cost about $20,000. America is spending millions to kill drones that cost $20,000 to build. And here's the kicker: Iran can build more drones faster than the US can intercept them. There are over 200 Ukrainian military advisors on the ground in the Gulf right now, teaching American forces how to deal with drone warfare more efficiently. Because Ukraine has been dealing with this problem against Russia for years. Think about that. The US military, the most powerful armed forces in the world, is taking lessons from Ukraine on how to fight cheap drones. So when Trump's solution is just to threaten bigger attacks on civilian infrastructure instead of figuring out the actual tactical problem, people start asking, if the US can't figure out how to stop Iranian drones efficiently, if they're burning through expensive missiles faster than they can replenish them, what does that really mean about how this ends? So here we are, March 22nd, 2026. The 48-hour ultimatum is ticking down. Iran's claim about shooting down an American aircraft is still hanging in the air without clear resolution. Missiles and drones are flying. Oil prices are unstable. Shipping routes are choked. Israel is still bombing Lebanon. Hezbollah is still fighting back. Over 1,500 people are dead in Iran, more than 1,000 in Lebanon, dozens in Israel. And Trump is sitting in Florida deciding whether to obliterate power plants that would affect millions of innocent people. What started 3 weeks ago as a calculated military campaign is becoming something nobody fully controls anymore, and the worst part, we still don't know for sure whether Iran actually shot down that aircraft or not. We don't know if Iran's claims are psychological warfare or actual capability. We don't know if Trump will really follow through on the ultimatum. We don't know what happens when he does or doesn't. We don't know if the world's oil supply gets cut off. We don't know if this stays regional or becomes something bigger. All we know is that decisions are being made right now that could change the lives of people across the entire planet, and nobody really seems to be in control anymore. If you're as shocked and confused and angry about what's happening as we are, please comment below. Tell us what you think is really going on. Tell us if you believe Iran's claim about the aircraft. Tell us if you think Trump's ultimatum is the right move. And please, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this story is developing in real time. The next 48 hours will tell us everything.